Paul was in uncharted territory. He was living in a way that no one before him had ever lived. He was a Jew. He fully still saw himself as a Jew, though he was living in a newness of his Jewish life with the revelation of Jesus. He still fully committed to the life of being a Jew and to following the God of the Jewish people. And yet he was a missionary called to bring this God to the Gentiles, and so he was living amongst the Gentiles. This caused all kinds of strife in Paul's life as he went around the Gentile world preaching about this Jewish God. Both the Jews back home thought that he was perverting the message that they had trusted and had believed in for so long, and they accused him. They believed that he was perverting their way of lifestyle and causing them potential danger and harm from the Roman Empire. And at the same time, he was preaching strange things among the Gentiles that was getting him in trouble with them as well. But Paul had this vision from Jesus of a unified humanity that would come through the cross. And so he knew that there was something that could be done to bring these two groups together. He began to envision, out of his heart for the poor, a way of connecting and unifying the Jewish people with the Gentile believers all over the Roman world. And that was to take an offering of money from all the Gentile churches and to bring it to the church in Jerusalem to be distributed to the poor there so that they might be blessed by the fruits of their gospel going out into the nations. And also the Gentile believers can connect and establish roots with the Jewish believers back in Jerusalem, whom they owed so much of their faith and life to because of the struggles and the persistence of those believers in Jerusalem. So Paul carries around with him a message to the Gentiles to give to this Jewish church which is suffering in Jerusalem, and he begins to collect money from them. And he's finally gets to a point where it's time for him to take that money back to Jerusalem. And so he sets out on a journey to take those offerings, those collections, back to Jerusalem. Now this was a very dangerous task. Imagine this. There's no banks where he can go and deposit all the money that he's collected from these churches and then carry with him just a deposit slip to a bank in Jerusalem and take the money out there. Instead, they have to convert the little offering that they had collected from various churches and kind of bring it into massive coins or gold bars or things like that they could carry a little bit more easily among their group. And then they had to recruit a group, not only for security in numbers, that they would be able to defend themselves against any robbers or people who might try and take what they were carrying from them, but also as a way to assure the churches that they had collected money from that nobody was acting in any kind of selfish impropriety with this money, that they were a sense of accountability, that each of these leaders that Paul brought with him, 7 in all, who would be traveling back to Jerusalem, each of them would be able to go back to their churches and report that all the money that their church had donated was going to the offering in Jerusalem. So they set off and they set sail and they began to carry this offering back to Jerusalem. But along the way, Paul keeps getting messages from believers in various places for him to not go to Jerusalem. The only thing that awaits him there is trouble. And so he should let the others go. He should let them carry the offering for him, but he should hold back, because if he goes, there's trouble for him there in Jerusalem. But Paul has such a passion to want to see the healing and the united church come together that he is going to be the one who's going to carry this for the church. But I also have to think that there was a sense of validation, of vindication that he wanted as well for himself, that he wanted his people, the Jewish believers back in Jerusalem, to know that he still cared about them, that he orchestrated this offering, and that his heart and passion was still for the Jewish people as much for the Gentile people. And so he wanted to make sure that not only were the Jews and Gentiles brought together in this offering, that there would be a connection of the Gentiles to their Jewish roots, that there would be an understanding from the Jewish believers that the Gentiles loved them and appreciated them and cared for them, but also that Paul had not forgotten about his Jewish roots and had not forgotten about his brothers and sisters in Jerusalem, and he was doing all he could to unite these people together under one headship, under Jesus Christ. And so they set off and they head for Rome with danger ahead of him, with pretty much an assurance from everybody that he's only going to be facing trouble. Paul goes in the promise that he can unify these people in the Lord.